Hello, in this video I'm going to talk about tips for deposition. I am not a lawyer. In late July of 2024, I received a subpoena and I was deposed on September 17th, 2024 as a deponent. The reason I'm making this video is that before my deposition, I planned to go pro se, basically representing myself without hiring a lawyer. I watched a lot of online videos on deposition. They are almost exclusively prepared by various lawyers. And then I had my deposition. Now, more than 3 weeks passed. I looked back. I think those videos, though they offer useful tips, they are very superficial. They do not go deep enough. So, as a deponent, I'm making this video. I hope this video will help my fellow deponents. Whether you're going to hire a lawyer or not, I hope this video will help you to prepare for your deposition. The case I'm involved in is this case on the screen. Lunan Pharmaceutical Group versus Zhao, ZHAL. That's Zhao is Long Zhao. First name is Long, last name is ZHAL. She's my wife. This is a very interesting case. I'm going to refer to this case occasionally in my this video because I think a lot of things are better demonstrated than explained. So I may use some examples from this case and also a related case from a few years ago. It's also Lunan Pharmaceutical Group versus my wife Long Zhao. Yeah, in that litigation, my wife won a landslide victory. It happened in British Virgin Island a few years ago. Yeah, so I may use some materials from that litigation as well. Okay. Without further ado, let's jump to deposition. The first topic I'm going to talk about is lawyers, because a lawyer will be your opponent at a deposition. A lawyer will be asking your questions. I think it's very important for you to understand a lawyer first. Let's look at Massachusetts attorney's oath. That's called an oath of office. So before you can become an attorney in Massachusetts, you need to swear this oath. I repeat your name, yeah. Solemnly swear that I will do no falsehood nor consent to the doing of any in court. So basically, you need to pledge that you will be an honest lawyer. I will not wittingly or willingly promote or sue any false, groundless, or unlawful suit, nor give aid or consent to the same. So the second sentence says that I will not file frivolous, baseless lawsuits, which is, yeah, basically what it says, yeah. I will delay no man for lucre or malice. The third sentence, I will not waste other people's time for money or to harm them. So there's some more, yeah. This basically says what an attorney is supposed to be. If every attorney is like this, which I can tell you is not the case, yeah. If every attorney is honest, they will not file frivolous, baseless lawsuits, and they will not waste your time for money, then you do not need to hire a lawyer to your deposition, period. Because your opponent is an honorable person. You go to a deposition, he will not waste your time. He will only ask questions related to the case, questions that help adjudicate the case. Then after 20 minutes, you're out of the deposition, you're done. No need to hire any lawyer. This attorney is honorable. He will not manipulate the questions. He will not set the traps. Even though you did not do anything wrong, a dishonest lawyer can manipulate the questions to make it look like you did something wrong. And if the attorney is honorable, you don't have to worry about these traps. So you can just go there without attorney, answer the questions, get out. That's the ideal theoretical kind of situation. In reality, almost the exact opposite is true. The attorney will try to manipulate questions, set up traps, do all kinds of stuff to try to confuse you, try to get some answers when you are extremely tired or you're not paying attention. You blurt something stupid, then they will exploit your answer. And they, even if your deposition is supposed to last only 20 minutes, they will make it like 7 hours, asking tons of questions completely unrelated to the case because the clock is ticking, right? Every minute the attorney is making money, so they will not give up the opportunity to make money. They will ask tons of unrelated questions. They will try their best to annoy you with awkward and difficult questions. So that's the reality. And of course, they will file frivolous, baseless lawsuits in order to make money. Even though they know they will lose, they can still file this lawsuit, file motions after motions, call on numerous witnesses, waste your time, waste your money, and eventually run out of money. You have to settle because you cannot support a litigation anymore. Yeah, so the reality cannot be further from this kind of ideal case. That's why I'm showing this Massachusetts attorney's oath of office. Yeah, in real life, expect the exact opposite. This is a paragraph I found from online. I think it's extremely well written. It describes some lawyers. This is written by a lawyer. Yeah. In the other corner, you have the greedy, soulless type who believes that winning is the reason for living. This lawyer is very common because the profession attracts a high percentage of psychopathic, narcissistic characters. Some lawyers believe it is their job to manipulate, obfuscate, and generally help their clients get away with the stuff. They take pleasure in fighting motions after motions to clog up the justice system, and they take pleasure in billing their clients hundreds of dollars an hour in pursuit of a case that they will not win. These lawyers give everyone else a bad name because there are so damn many of them. This is so well written by an attorney, yeah. So if the opposing attorney is honest, you do not need to hire a lawyer, do not need to prepare anything, just go there, answer a question, you're done. But in reality, there's a good chance that the opposing attorney will not be honest. He will make you upset, he will tire you out, he will manipulate the questions, he will try his best to misrepresent the facts. That's why you need to hire a lawyer, and that's why you need to prepare for your deposition. The first question I'd like to talk about is, should you hire a lawyer? It depends. If you are a third-party witness, you have zero stake in the outcome of the litigation. Say, a car hit a pedestrian and you saw the accident. You do not have to hire a lawyer. Just truthfully answer the questions. Also, if you know that your opposing counsel is honest, he will not manipulate the question, he will not mislead you, he will not misrepresent the facts, then there's no need. Just go there and answer the questions. But you never know. An attorney hired by you at the deposition can prepare you for the deposition. He may anticipate some of the traps the other attorney may want to set for you. Also, he can object. Objection, this question is misleading. Objection, blah, blah, blah. So he knows the rule of law, so he can exclude some of the answers from being used as evidence. Yeah, so objection, that's another function. Also, he can give you tips during the breaks. So every hour you may take 10 minutes break, then your attorney can bring you to some room. Hey, this attorney, the opposing attorney, is trying to mislead the jury. He's trying to lead you down this path, so be prepared. So if you know a lot about law, you can object yourself. Objection yourself. Or you are very smart. You can anticipate the opposing counsel, what kind of traps you're going to set for you. Then you do not have to hire a lawyer. Yeah, but most of the time I think it's advisable to hire a lawyer because most average people are not experienced in law. And also it's just a few $1,000s, so better safe than sorry. So it's highly recommended to hire a lawyer for your deposition if you have a huge stake in the outcome of litigation. It's like insurance. Even if you hired a lawyer, keep in mind that your lawyer, it's highly unlikely for your lawyer to know the case better than you do, because they may be working on 10 different cases. Also, a lawyer is very good at law, but he may not have the same broad perspective as you do. For example, the deposition can be used later against you on things completely unrelated to this litigation. Say you're running for president, but in the deposition you said, hey, what did you do in that year? Oh, I didn't do anything. I just played video games in my mom's basement. And then in your election campaign, your opponent can say, oh, this guy's a deadbeat. He wasted the whole year just playing video games in his mom's basement. So have a broad perspective. This is something your attorney may not have. Okay, so this is a question regarding whether you should hire a lawyer. Here, I'm going to give you some very general advice. First, have good rest. Sleep deprivation will impair your cognitive skills. Second, don't volunteer information, because if you volunteer information, the opposing counsel will follow up with 10 additional questions. Their brains are trained to react this way. Whenever you have additional information, they ask additional questions. So don't volunteer information. Third, listen to the questions carefully and ask for clarification if you do not understand. This is also very important. Number 4, pause before answering the question. If you have hired your own attorney, if you pause, your attorney can object first. Objection. Otherwise, you already blurted something out. Yeah. So these are 4 very general advice. Be prepared to be surprised at a deposition. You will be shocked at how much your opposing counsel knows about you. In this digital world, everybody leaves a digital trail. Your opposing counsel, with the money from his client, can hire a private detective. They can use legal and illegal means to dig up all kinds of information about you. So be prepared to be surprised. The opposing counsel is paid to confuse and annoy you, and because he is a professional, he is expert at confusing and annoying people. Don't expect to go to deposition and they will just ask a few questions related to the case and you're done. It's not how it works. They will ask your name, your address, your employment. Then they will ask a lot of questions, sometimes completely unrelated to the litigation, to confuse and annoy you. And they will not play it fair. For example, in the car accident, you drove your car at 3 o'clock in the morning and hit a pedestrian. And it's a very remote part of the country. You did not expect pedestrians at 3 a.m. and the street lights were broken. It's pitch dark. And the pedestrian wore all black clothes. And he is in his old age and he has very poor hearing. There are a lot of mitigating factors, but your opposing counsel, even if he knows about these mitigating factors, he will not mention anything about them. Like the pedestrian is in his old age, he's wearing all black, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and the street lights were broken. He will not mention any of those. He will ask you questions in such a way that to make you appear as if you rammed into the pedestrian on purpose, or if you're under the influence of the drugs or alcohol. So that's they're paid to do. They will not play fair. So be ready to be confused and annoyed at your deposition. They will ask a lot of questions illogically. For example, your employment history. They will ask your first job, then ask 30 unrelated questions, and then ask your fifth job, then ask 25 unrelated questions, then jump back to the third job. They do this to confuse and annoy you. And when you are confused, you're annoyed, your guard is down, and then they ask some critical questions, and your stupid answer blurts out. So be prepared. And also pay special attention to the time right after lunch and at the end of a deposition. Right after lunch, you have belly full of food. You may be sleepy, drowsy, and also toward the end of the deposition after maybe 8 hours. The on-record time is 7 hours, but you have lunch break, you have 10-minute breaks every hour, so the deposition may last way beyond 8 hours. When you're hungry, you're annoyed, you're confused, you're even angry, they may ask some critical questions, then your stupid answer blurts out. So pay special attention to these moments. Another tip that may not apply to every law firm is to bring some snacks because they may serve crappy food to annoy you. So at my deposition, it's a very fancy building, 500 Boylston Street. That's the law firm called Cooley. If you remember, there's a TV show called Boston Legal. It was actually shot at the 500 Boylston Street. It's a very prestigious location, Back Bay of Boston. But the food, lunch they served, had like no taste. It's so gross. I'm not sure if they eat that kind of stuff themselves, but when I had my lunch, I just ate like half a wrap. It just tastes so bad. My attorney, he ate a lot of candies from the front desk. Candies or whatever stuff. I didn't eat any of those. So they may use every means to upset and annoy you, including lunch. And because they already said, okay, let's take a 30-minute lunch break, everybody agreed. It's really difficult for you to say, oh, your lunch tastes so bad, I'm going out and buy my own lunch. It's just not a reasonable request. So you have to eat the kind of a crappy lunch and then get back to your deposition. Your blood sugar level may still be very low because you didn't eat much. So take some snacks with you. This may not apply to every law firm, but if you are going to depose at this law firm called Cooley, make sure you bring some snacks with you. Another thing I want to point out is that the questions they ask you at a deposition may be completely unrelated to the case, and you will still need to answer the questions. Unless it's privileged, like communication between your wife privately, communication between you and your lawyer privately, they cannot ask those questions. But even if they ask some completely unrelated questions and your attorney objection, you will still need to answer those questions. I've given you an example of my deposition. So the opposing counsel asked me a question about whether I criticized the CEO of the Chinese company. That happened like 7, almost 8 years ago. That's a long time ago. I didn't remember much of the details at all. Why did he ask these questions? So what did the CEO guy do? If I criticized him, I totally remember the reasons. When he was like 2 years into his job, he was fired by the board. What he did, he was the Communist Party secretary. He used the company's security guard to kick out the board. Well, in China, the rule of law is very different. A CEO can kick out the board. And also, he forced employees to delete these board directors from their cell phone, the contact list. So, as a CEO, what right do you have to seize employees' private cell phone and force them to delete people from their contact list? This is a violation of human rights. So, from my perspective, this is horrible. And also, he forced employees to give him proxy voting rights. The employees hold collectively a huge amount of company shares under the employee shareholding program. But those are the employee shares. A CEO should not coerce an employee to give him indefinite, permanent voting proxy. This is called coercion. So that's totally unacceptable. In one case, one of the directors, the chief financial officer, told me that the CEO even sent people to stalk and harass his then 12-year-old daughter because her father fired him. He's not happy. But why do you send people to harass the daughter, this kid? So that's the reasons if I criticize this guy, that's the reason I criticized him. The thing is that when I possibly criticize him on my Chinese social media Weibo, my whole Weibo account was locked. I was censored. All the posts got deleted. This, of course, is in China, Chinese platform. If you have connection with the government, the party, you can actually completely delete out people's posts and lock them out of the social media platform. So this is what happened back then. I do not have recollection of these things because they are almost 8 years ago, more than 7 years ago. And why do you ask your lawyer to ask me criticizing you back then at a U.S. federal case, federal court, the deposition? It has nothing to do with trade secret. So this is truly odd. Why the attorney asked me these questions, whether to criticize this guy such a long time ago. So be prepared to answer questions that's completely unrelated to the case in question. Just random questions. Unless they're privileged, you still need to answer them. My next tip applies not only to deposition, but anything that is translated. If your deposition is in a different language and they are translated into English, you need to check the transcript because a dishonest attorney will use translation as a weapon to misrepresent facts, to distort the reality. I'll give you one example. I am going to rip your head off can be translated into I am going to rip my own head off. What does the translation even mean? Ripping your own head off does not make any sense, right? This is not a contrived example. This is a real-life example in real litigation. A dishonest attorney will use translation as a weapon to distort the facts, to misrepresent the facts. So pay attention to the translation. The next topic is actually very important. Time and money. Attorneys earn money by spending time on a client's case or allegedly spending time on a client case. If you receive a deposition, like subpoena, you need to be deposed. You may be confused. Oh, my role in this whole matter is marginal. Why do they need to depose me? Well, time and money. They can subpoena different people for deposition, and every time they depose someone, they will earn tens of thousands of dollars, a lot of money, because they bill their clients, right? So don't be surprised if you think your role is completely irrelevant or marginal and receive some deposition. Yeah, that's just the lawyer's way to make money. And also, if your role is marginal, you think, oh, I may go to this place, they ask me a few questions, then 20 minutes later, I'm done. It will never happen. Even if your role is marginal, they will ask tons of questions, a lot of times completely irrelevant questions, just to make money, because these people have zero concern for your time, your money, or the taxpayers' money, because these, as I mentioned, this case is filed at the federal court in Massachusetts. It wastes a lot of federal judicial resources, but they do not care, because why? Time and money. They are earning money themselves. At my deposition, there were a total of 7 attorneys, and there's one attorney from the opposing side. He was watching his cell phone the whole time. My deposition lasted for more than 4 hours. I started at 10, I left past 2 o'clock. And he was watching, I looked at him multiple times. I was under the video recording, of course. All the opposing attorneys on one side. I looked at him multiple times. Not a single time did he even look up. He wasn't working on his cell phone. He was just watching stuff on his cell phone. He was working on his cell phone, he had to type, right? He wasn't typing, he was just watching. I guess the TikTok has so much power that he couldn't even bother to listen to the deposition. Later, he probably still billed the clients thousands of dollars for the deposition, but he was just probably watching stuff on his cell phone. So time and money. The attorney earned money by wasting other people's time, by wasting taxpayers' money. Yeah. So understand this, you'll understand a lot of behavior of attorney. My next suggestion is very important. Regardless of your opponent, whether he's dishonest attorney or not, be honest and take the high road. Tell the truth. The goal of deposition is to find the truth that helps adjudicate a case. Take the high road and be honest. I can show you some materials from the BVI litigation. This is the BVI judgment. I mentioned there was another litigation happened a few years ago before this federal court litigation between my wife and this company. And in this judgment, I can read it here. It shows in my judgment a complete absence of integrity on the part of Wang Jianping, his wife, and those in the Guimin camp at Lunan. It may well be a criminal contempt of court. So what does that mean? These parties, my wife's opposing parties, in the mind of the judge, is characterized by a complete absence of integrity. Complete absence of integrity, those are very strong words. So these people lied, and they want to cover up one lie with another lie. They deposed, then they come up with a kind of amendment to their deposition. Their deposition, their behavior make them look so bad because these are all Chinese nationals except this guy's wife. Yeah, I believe everybody else is Chinese national living in China. There's no way for the judge to send a British police officer to China to apprehend them. So that contempt of court is not further investigated. But I'm using this example to tell you that you can look extremely bad if you lie, because in this digital world, everybody leaves a digital trail and people will be able to bust your lies. Of course, there are exceptions. I live in Canton, Massachusetts, and there was a case recently, a Karen Reed case, attracted a lot of attention, made my town actually famous across the nation. And on that fateful morning in 2022, what happened, really there were only 2 people, Karen and her boyfriend, and the boyfriend is deceased. So Karen tell the story, there's really no way to verify it. I'm not saying that Karen is guilty or not, I'm just telling you that there are certain circumstances, there's only one person present, you can tell whatever stories you want. But even that, I still recommend that suggest you tell the truth. Don't tell lies. It's the right thing to do. This is my suggestion, and of course, it's up to you to tell the truth or not, but I strongly recommend that you tell the truth. I do admit that there are situations where a person's position may be indefensible, like this lawyer Wang Jianping, when he was deposed, he had to explain some really indefensible event. For example, my late father-in-law, he left company shares in the trust with my wife, who is also his only daughter, as the beneficiary. Then that trust was replaced by another trust. The trust has this lawyer, Wang Jianping's own daughter, as the beneficiary and has the original trust's shares as the asset. So how can you explain it? Why your client's shares intended for his own daughter became asset for the lawyer's daughter? This just does not make any sense. Who would hire a lawyer to bequest his shares to the lawyer's daughter? That does not make any sense, right? So this position is really indefensible. That's why when the BVI judgment was handed down in 2021, my wife became an internet celebrity almost overnight, because this case is just so unusual. Obviously, this guy, Mr. Wang Jianping, he was the roommate of the second most powerful politician in China, the Premium of China at the time, Li Keqiang. He is basically, according to this guy's own words, nobody touches me in China. So he could get away with pretty much anything in China. That's a very special situation. But unless, of course, you want to emigrate to China, North Korea, Russia, or some of the countries, if you live in the Western world, do not lie, do not do those bad things, because you will be caught. Okay, that's about integrity. My final tips on deposition are two answers: I don't know and I don't recall. If you don't know the answer, you're not an expert, just say I don't know. Don't provide some stupid answers that could be used against you later or could be used to discredit you. And if asked about a past event, if you do not remember the event or if you don't remember the details of the event, I don't recall is the safe bet, because you may recall later, right? If you recall some details that were not true, like memory sometimes can play tricks on you. If you recall something details, then another deponent said something different, there's a conflict, then there's just unnecessary trouble. So if you don't recall the detail, just reply, I don't recall, because you may recall later, right? So I don't recall is a very safe bet. So these are my tips on deposition. I hope you will find them useful. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I had only one deposition at this federal court. So if you have comments, you have suggestions, feel free to leave it under my video. Thank you.